granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and making a better place to live and work. Amen. Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. Present. Chair would like to recognize Councilor Samaras.
Thank you. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence tonight for Michael DiVincenzi, who passed away on Tuesday, April 22nd, 2014. Michael was the beloved son of Aldo and Julia DiVincenzi of Dracut, who survived him. In addition to his parents, Michael is survived by his children, Brett DiVincenzi, Nicholas DiVincenzi, Brittany DiVincenzi, his granddaughter, Alvia, and two sisters, Gail Green and her husband Tim of Lowell, Leanne Connors and her husband Dennis of Lowell. Michael began his 20-year career at Lowell High School as a social studies teacher and psychology teacher, and then advanced to become the social studies department chair during his tenure at Lowell High School. The Lowell School Committee tomorrow night, I believe, will speak of him, but as the former headmaster of Lowell High School, I hired Michael and I appointed him as department head. There is a term, gentleman and scholar. That was Michael. He was hardworking, bright young man who was respected by all those that he worked with. He is a loss to his family, and it's going to be a loss to the education community, the Lowell school system. It's just that I'll finish up by saying, as an administrator, when we hire people, we hope that we hire good people. That's our intent. In this case, when he was hired, not only was a good person, but he was amongst one of the best hires I've ever had. I mean, he was totally dedicated to the students of Lowell, and he was struck down by the disease of cancer. He gave it a hard fight, and he lost, and it's our loss. So I would respectfully ask for a moment of silence in his name. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. If we could all please rise for a moment of silence in darkened chambers. May you rest in peace. Before we get into the agenda items, I just wanted to briefly ask the members of the council for a second date to conduct auditor interviews. I know Celine had sent an email out and we got some responses, but the the Human Resources Director is trying to schedule another time frame for the last two candidates. So, Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to propose next Monday, this coming Monday at 6 p.m., and then vote for the auditor on the agenda on Tuesday as part of the agenda.
Okay. We have motion by Council Belanger, seconded by Council Leahy to conclude interviews on Monday. What's the day of that, Mr. Clark? Oh, next Monday, and put an agenda item on the City Council agenda for that meeting to conduct the vote of the new auditor.
12th is the date.
So May 12th, interviews at 6 and 7 p.m. And then Tuesday, we will proceed with the election of the auditor. Council Mercia?
Thank you, Mr.
Second
Mayor.
by Council Leahy. Council Mercia.
So on Thursday, we're going to do interview three people,
Correct.
and then two on Monday, the 12th.
Correct.
Okay.
Makes sense. Council Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to apologize to my wife ahead of time since the 12th will be her birthday, so thank you.
Does that mean you will or you will not be in attendance?
It's up in the air, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion carries. And the clerk has duly posted the notice for Thursday, so we'll post another notice for Monday. Moving on to the agenda, the regular agenda, and the mayor's business. If I could have Bob Johnson and PJ Mercia, the owners of Navigation Brewing Company, please come to the podium. Welcome to City Hall.
Thank you for having us.
We did attend a ribbon cutting, and we wanted you to come to City Hall chambers to get a citation, as we do at new businesses in the city. I think this is a very exciting venture. We'll ask you to speak about it a little bit later and the beer that you're brewing. But beforehand, on behalf of the city, I'd like to offer you a citation. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby offers and welcomes Navigation Brewing Company and its owners, Bob Johnson and PJ Mercia, as a new business to make its home at 45 Meadowcross Street. The city is honored that a home brewer, your dream, has come true to life in the city of Lowell. And after a lengthy 2-year search and much planning, it is now a larger scale. The entire city of Lowell extends its deep wishes to the Navigation Brewing Company and thanks Bob Johnson and PJ Mercia for bringing their award-winning ale here to the city of Lowell. Given the 6th day of May, 2014, by myself, Rodney Elliott, the mayor of the city of Lowell, on behalf of all my colleagues in government, congratulations.
I just want to thank the city very much for welcoming us. We're happy to be here, and we hope to be the city's local brewery, and hopefully have our beer in some establishments around the city and elsewhere in the Merrimack Valley. And just thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bob? No, you good?
We're just very, want to thank you for welcoming us to
And
Lowell.
the name of the ale again is, and how they can get it?
I'm sorry?
Oh, the name of the ale, well, we have all different styles, but we have release dates scheduled. We actually have one tomorrow night from 8 o'clock to 10:30 at the brewery, so people can come down and purchase bottles of beer down there. We'll have 4 different styles this time around, but if they come down, we can explain when the next one will be released and how to get a hold of us.
And most of your sales are, at this point, are done through,
Strictly through the brewery right
The
now.
brewery?
Yeah, down at the brewery. You come
and
down
people
there.
can order them through Facebook, or how, I thought you said,
We post things on Facebook and on Twitter on when our release dates are.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the best way to follow us, and also on our website as well.
it's an up-and-coming business or industry. Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the brewery is where?
It's at 45 Meadowcroft Street, Unit 1.
Okay, some years ago, former city councilor Dan Tenza made this motion to bring and introduce and invite new businesses to come to this city hall so that not only we can see you and talk to you, but the people viewing at home would have an opportunity to know that there was such a business in our city. It isn't every city councilor that has the opportunity to go at a ribbon cutting or an open house, and I am sorry that I missed yours, as I am with some of them, because some days we just can't do that. So it's very appropriate that you come before this council so we can have the opportunity to meet you and say thank you for choosing Lowell. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is we welcome the UMass Lowell hockey team to City Council chamber. This is, yeah. All right. After once again an absolutely outstanding season, you've made the city Lowell. You certainly made the university Lowell. We love to watch you play hockey and see it on national television. It's just outstanding. So we wanted to bring you here to offer a citation to you, the university, Mrs. Skinner, and you, the players. So we thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come down here. Mrs. Skinner, did you want to speak first? Do you want the citation? Coach?
Back seat of one of our student athletes.
You're taking the back seat? All right.
I did nothing. I had nothing to do. I was as much a fan as the rest of you.
I'm Josh Holmstrom, and on the behalf of the team and the entire hockey program, just wanted to say thank you to the City Council and the citizens of the City of Lowell for the continued support over the exciting season that we've just had. Without everyone's support, we wouldn't have been able to accomplish everything that we have over the past few seasons. So we just wanted to say thank you for everything.
Norm Bazin as the head coach. These young men have worked extremely hard for the organization and the city of Lowell, and we're very proud to represent Lowell across the country and bring a lot of these teams back to the Songus Arena. Next year, you'll get the pleasure of watching Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, Harvard come to the great city of Lowell, and we look forward to representing you some more. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. On behalf of my colleagues in government here in the chamber and the entire city of Lowell, we'd like to offer you a citation, Coach and players. Be it hereby known to all that the city of Lowell in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby offers its sincere gratitude and congratulations to you, the UMass Lowell men's ice hockey team. As the UMass Lowell Riverhawks men's hockey team season concludes, we pause to reflect on the achievements of this team. After 2 tremendous seasons, the team has become a big name in the best conference in college hockey. The team has posted back-to-back Hockey East championships and 2 runs deep in the NCAA hockey tournament. Under Coach Norm Bazin, the team is a stellar 116, 66, and 14, including this past season's 26, 11, and 4 during their Hockey East championship run. Outstanding defense and goaltending from trophy winner Connor Hellebuck, along with Doug Carr. A well-rounded team play led the team to 2 straight hockey championships. Now, therefore, I, Rodney M. Elliott, Mayor of the City of Lowell, hereby offer our congratulations to Coach Norm Bazin, Team Captain Josh Holmstrom, and the entire Hockey East Championship team, and we wish you all the best in the upcoming season, given on the 6th day of May, 2014, by myself, the Mayor of the City of Lowell, and all my colleagues in government. Thank you for all you did, all you will do, and congratulations on an absolutely outstanding season.
You're right. That's the typical break from the runner. Got a lot of those.
I know.
Well done. Thank you for leading us.
Dana, I know a place around the corner.
It really wasn't planned that we had a brewery scheduled for the night of the hockey team, but. Okay, moving on to the next
Your Honor,
item on the city
Your Honor.
clerk. Oh, Council Leahy?
I just want to say, it's not the White House, but you did a great job.
All right,
Thank you.
very good, thank you. Next item on the city clerk, we have the minutes, right? Minutes of the City Council meeting, April 29th. We also have minutes of the Economic Development Subcommittee on April 29th. Motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. Motion carries. Minutes are accepted. It's not 7 o'clock yet, so we'll skip the public hearing item at this point. Moving on to 5.1, communications summary, communications from the city manager. Motion responses. Council Marcia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, you and I made a motion that would like to bring back discuss the slogan, "There's a lot to like about Lowell," and we did hear from the city manager, and we did get a breakdown, and the breakdown said that in 1998, we had a 3-year campaign, and the cost of the marketing was $350,000, and then it said that in 2001, the city pays O'Sullivan Communication $250,000 per year to continue and manage the marketing campaign, and the slogan, "There's a lot to like about Lowell." But they discarded "There's a lot to like about Lowell," and they had several new slogans like "Old City, New Twist," "Look at Lowell Now," and "Mills to Martinis." Talk about, the coach wouldn't have liked that one for his hockey team, but it goes on to say that the breakdown of all, like in 2008, the city highest single source in the community evaluation process, the cost was $160,000 to market the city and plan, and they came out with a new slogan, "Alive, Unique, Inspiring." And I know that we do marketing for the city. I have no problem with that. But I think that instead of focusing on a slogan and have an exorbitant amount of money paid, the city could have a citywide campaign with merchants offering grand prizes to the winner for the best slogan, and have the public decide what they think would be the change or no change, or what slogan do you think that we could have? We could enlist the help of the city. I think a lot of good ideas that people have, including myself, and we bring it up here, is not my idea whatsoever. It's the idea of the public out there, and we bring their message here. We could do the same thing with this with a campaign that says, "What do you think? Alive, unique, and inspiring." I thought we were, talking about you, Mr. Manager, but be that as it may, I thought that this might be a different way to look at it. We have a special events coordinator. Maybe this could be a special event, and maybe marketing could be strictly for marketing and not including a slogan. Let the public decide what their slogan should be for their own city, not some company coming in deciding what's best for us through a slogan. But it's just an idea that I'd like to throw out there with the response from the city manager. Thank you.
I've met with both Susan Halter from Cool and Deb Belanger from the CVB, Convention and Visitors Bureau. And what I want to do is to have them meet and come up with a comprehensive marketing strategy.
Yes.
My initial meeting tells me that there's a lot to like about Lowell hasn't been discarded in its entirety. It's supposed to still be going on. How much it's being used, I will be finding out, but rest assured, I have them working on a comprehensive marketing and branding strategy for the city, which I will bring back to the council for your review and approval if necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. As you know, the mayor and I feel that there's a lot to like about Lowell. You just met two entities from the city, the hockey team and new businesses. There's an awful lot to like about Lowell, and so, I don't know, that's just our feeling. Thank you.
Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Manager, for that input. It was very valuable, but I thought this was a great motion. And the importance enough cannot be stressed that, this isn't something small. This is a city slogan that was toyed with throughout the past few years. I think unnecessarily. This was a very, very catchy slogan. Now, I travel out of the city quite frequently when I can, and I still hear it out of people's mouths. The first thing they say when I say Lowell, I hear it on the radio, I hear it from people. I think it's the most catchy, effective slogan that we've come up with to this point, and I think we should overt back to it, quite frankly. But what's even more alarming is the motion response of the money that was spent. In 2001 to 2007, we were spending as much as $250,000 a year. Some was subsidized by the LDFC, and that's one of the great city partners, as we all know. And it ramped down to 2008, about $160,000. And most recently in 2012, relationships with single source discontinued as a cost-saving measure. Now, what do we achieve by not spending money on advertising? So this is a point that I've made 2-3 times in the past, and to you, Mr. Manager, our advertising campaign needs to be ramped up. There's a lot going on here, there's a lot to talk about, but if we spend no money, we're gonna have no tourists. That's how it works. We can't just expect we're in the driver's seat here that people are going to come. I think this is a big issue. So, Mr. Manager, it is budget time. You know the numbers better than I don't know where it's going to come from, but I do know we need to spend far more attention to this as we have. So I just wanted to get that point across to my colleagues and to you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council. Council Leahy, Council Martin?
Sure, I'll go first. So a couple of things. On motion F about the slogan, I agree with that. We have to spend a little bit of money to draw people in, and we can't forget that. And I do agree with Council Belanger how important that is. You gotta spend a little money to make a little money, draw everybody back into the city and keep that going. I wanted to speak on response B, my motion to the downtown dumpsters. So I appreciate the response. I appreciate the work that the inspectors are doing, but I just want to make sure that, we have to strive for that balance with the residents and the businesses downtown, and we have to make sure that, we're responsible. So the residents, they're living downtown, they have a lot of visitors in and out during the week, the weekend, and we just don't want these dumpsters overflowing. Some may say, well, they're in the back alleys, but the back alleys are the windows to some of these apartments. So we're gonna make sure we're up on that, and if the dumpsters aren't big enough, then they need to be, they need to get a bigger dumpster, or they need to be emptied more. And also, I don't think it's in the response, but under the rules, I wanted to also check to make sure that the dumpsters are being emptied at responsible times. We had a request from somebody over on Rogers Street, and, you can't be emptying dumpsters at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, 7 to, I think, 6 or 8 is the ordinance. So if we can just keep an eye on that, that would be great. The other response I wanted to speak on is E for the Comcast. So I got my response about setting up a meeting with Comcast. I think this is an important issue on everybody's mind in the city. The rates are just climbing. I appreciate the response. I see that there's some restrictions on what we can speak about, and one of the restrictions is the rates, but I think that's what we're here about, and that's what people want to talk about. What I've noticed over the last few years is that, they're just slowly climbing up. They're the only company that I know of that bills you a month ahead. So, when they say you're behind, you're really not behind. You're paying a month ahead for the usage of it. What I've also noticed is, maybe we should talk to them about trying to take care of our elderly citizens who are unfortunately in nursing homes. They can't afford some of these rates. So, you know, the least we could do for some people when they're in this situation is maybe there's some sort of a discount for people who are in the nursing homes. You know, if you want to get the government channel to watch us, which is very exciting, you have to pay extra. You can't get the basic and get government channel. You have to get the next step up. So I think these issues are important. I'd like to set up a meeting with the representatives from Comcast and air these issues out. And I think there is something we can do. And need be, we can invite the state delegation in. I talked to Representative Nangle. He's very interested in this, probably Representative Golden also. So that would be great. And then just one other thing. The double polls. That's under information. Is there somebody here tonight to speak on that? And so we'll take that up later, or? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council Martin?
Yes, I wanted to follow up on the discussion about the marketing. And so I appreciate the manager's response, because I do think it's important to have some sort of coordinated approach to this. You know, I've kind of been skeptical about these efforts in the past. I think I've supported some expenditures in the past, because I think it's important, if the business community steps forward and wants to partner with us, we should be doing that. However, these things are hard to measure, and I think that's what makes them vulnerable to cuts, and especially when in difficult times when we need to find savings in the budget. So I do think we've had some success with this, and I actually like Councilor Mercier's idea of the contest. I think I've been involved in these types of things in the past, whether with clients or other businesses, and people can be very creative. So I think it's an interesting idea to sort of tap into the public and get the public engaged. But I do think it's important that if we did something like that, it'd be part of an overall program. So I'm happy to hear the managers at work on that, and look forward to see what's recommended.
Council Samaras?
Thank you.
Council Belanger?
Okay, I'd also like to go back to the motion regarding Comcast, but I appreciate that the manager also included the standard of FiOS of Verizon. And basically what the information was, that FiOS of Verizon has made it known that they don't intend to continue expanding. With that said, the way I see it, the only way prices are going to be reduced is if there's competition. There's Dish and Comcast. FiOS would have been a very viable alternative. Do we have any other, to the city manager, are there any other possibilities to deal with this? Do you have, in your research?
No.
Okay.
But can I just ask Moran, could you come up for a moment and address
Thank
that, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor?
No, not Mr. Manager. Mr. Fernandez?
Thank you. Councilor Samaras, your question regarding other viable competitors in the marketplace. There's other competitors in Massachusetts, but it really comes down to the infrastructure that the city has. It's not a function of the city's infrastructure, but the infrastructure that's been in place in the city going back 100 years. And what's happened is Verizon, for example, when they look at the decision to go to a municipality, they have to consider what their return on investment is. And what's their investment is it's overhauling the infrastructure within the city. So what they've come back and told us is that it would be somewhere between $100 and $250 million of investment before they have a single customer on board. This is going back 5 years now. So as a result, they've made the decision that there was no reason for them to be coming to Lowell at this time. On top of that, Verizon also announced 3 years ago that they would not be taking on any new FiOS implementations anywhere in the country. So in those locations where you might have heard in Massachusetts, there were a couple of FiOS startups or FiOS communities that went live in the past 2 years. That was because those items were negotiated years ago. But Verizon has made it clear that they have no intention of expanding FiOS across the country. That comes back to the issue of technology. Technology is just really changing so quickly that even FiOS itself is already outdated. When you look at things like Google, we've spoken with Google, and the concern Google has is where a As the Industrial Revolution birthplace, we have these rivers that cut through the city, and the Merrimack presents a challenge because the only way that you can run fiber and stuff like that is over the bridges, and the bridges aren't owned by the city necessarily. So it presents a challenge in getting conduit space for them to build out their infrastructure. So it really comes back to infrastructure, and that's the biggest challenge we have. But the city's always stood ready to negotiate with anyone who's interested in coming to the city of Lowell to implement a competitive cable license. And one of the things that's probably really important to point out in the communication, I listed the things that we're not allowed to really discuss because of the FCC deregulation. One of the things that's important to point out is that there are things that we can negotiate. There are services that are available, and we are doing that right now in good faith through the license renewal process and expect to have that wrapped up soon. And Comcast has offered to come in and meet with the council to discuss things like rates, discuss what they're doing for senior citizens, et cetera, at the council's pleasure.
Well, thank you. That's great information. I mean, it's good information, and I appreciate what the city manager has done in this case, because a lot of people have asked a lot of questions, and this, I think, will give them something to think about and gives us an idea where we can go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
And we'll reach out to Verizon again, just to see if we can ignite any interest.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Councilor Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the manager. So currently now, is there an exclusivity deal between the city of Lowell and Comcast?
Yes, sir. It's an exclusivity
I
deal.
apologize. Actually, I apologize, Mr. Manager. It's not an exclusive deal per se. We have a license franchise with Comcast. We are not allowed to have an exclusive deal, and the license that we have in place for the license franchise does have clauses in it for competition. So if a competitor were to come to us, then we have the ability to negotiate in good faith with them while maintaining our license with Comcast today.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Further
Mayor.
discussion, Councilor Rourke?
Yes, thank you. With regards to the motion response, A, the code violation on 1291 Varnum Ave, through you to the manager, or maybe to the auditor, has any fines been actually paid to the city yet from that?
No, but there is a lien against the property for the fines. Could you just elaborate on that, Madam Solicitor, if you don't mind?
Madam Solicitor?
Sure thing. The lien has been in place, and now that the lien is in place, once the proper period of time goes by, a taking, if not paid, there will be a taking as if the taxes weren't paid.
So the next step of the city could be the actual taking of the property?
If it's not paid, it will be the very next step of the city.
What's the lead time on that? How far that happens?
It's actually probably another maybe 3 months.
Mr. Slagle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It all depends on the tax bill. That when we take liens and put them to the tax bill, they're done at a specific time frame every year. So it's only done once per year that liens are moved to the tax bill. And it's the first tax bill of the year. So we have to wait till the first tax bill of the year comes in order to put the liens on there. And then it goes on there just like you didn't pay your water bill. You'd have to pay it as part of your taxes, or else you're subject to a taking.
I think the concern is, we have ordinances and decisions by city boards or commissions that, are either just not followed or whatnot. So, any type of movement, I think, by the city is actually a good thing. So, thank you very much.
Mr. Councilman Milanazzo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To follow up on Councilor Rourke's questioning to the city solicitor, is it my understanding that in order for the homeowner, in this case, to actually build a new garage, if you will, behind his house, he's going to have to pay those liens in order to get a building permit? He's not going to be able to get a building permit without paying and satisfying that lien, correct?
That's correct. In order to even apply for and obtain the building permits, not just for the greenhouse, but anything that this homeowner may want between the time that it's paid, he would not be eligible to do that.
Okay. So the talk in that part of the city that he's planning to tear down what's there and then build according to the setback requirements and the height requirements, he can't do that until those liens are paid.
That's correct, and the liens, again, continue to accrue until this matter is resolved. So the penalty is actually quite significant as time goes on, and in order to do this, it comes as no further cost or burden to the city by following this type of path. The cost and burden is squarely on the homeowner or the violator in this case.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, one more question, just as far as it goes. So within the response, it says that the violations have restarted again at $300 per week. Is that retroactive to last week, 2 weeks ago, or how often has that been going out?
That would be in addition to the fines that are already in place. So in order to do a taking, you have to have a lien secured. So the past due is contained in that lien, and that lien is secured. But that does not stop or cure the ongoing violation. So while there's a lien for a set amount right now in place, as the violation continues, there will, so too will continue the violations, and then there'll be yet another lien.
Okay, and just to follow up on Councilman Mazzo's comments, it does say in response that the owner has begun the process of pulling the proper permits. That can't even be done until the original fines have been paid, correct?
That's correct. What they're in the process of doing, I believe, is reaching out to the development services to inquire how to start that process. I don't believe that they have gotten that far in the process, but prior to any permits being released by the city, that amount would have to be paid.
Okay.
Or there would be a possibility also of a payment agreement.
Okay, and finally, so if the, I guess, disobedience remains and nothing is done, what the end game is actually removing the structure? Could the city possibly do that at some point?
We could. It's unlikely that it will reach that point because, again, already there's a $7,000 bill growing and growing that will need to be paid in the very near future, or the city will be taking the property. And this is the type of property also that, with upcoming tax title auctions, this would simply be placed on an auction list and sold. The city would get the money receive the money for the fines. They would be dealing with a third party, and in the interim, if there is not a timely resolution of this, then other actions would be taken, including court enforcement actions and other avenues of redress to the city.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Further discussion? Council Kennedy?
Yeah, just one quick question. Do we have, has the tax title, the municipal tax lien auction been scheduled yet? Or when are we gonna do that? I think
Mr.
I had a
Manager?
motion on a couple of weeks ago that hasn't.
No, I've been, it hasn't been, it will be responded to. It's a little more tricky than I thought it was, but you will have a response by next week relative to that issue.
Okay, but the auction should take place pretty soon as well, right?
I'm not saying it's going to be in the next couple of months. That's what I'm working on. I'm trying to get it as quickly as possible.
Okay.
What happened is just the two functions that go into scheduling it are in different departments. And so what I'm trying to do is bring them together so that it just expedites those scheduling matters better.
Okay, okay.
And I'll have a report for you on how we're bringing them together to expedite the scheduling.
Okay, but that's a one-time thing, right? After that, then it should run smoothly.
Correct.
Yep, okay, thank you.
If there's no objection, I just had a couple of questions on that greenhouse. So at what point, Madam Solicitor, I mean, this has been going on or Mr. Slagle, quite frankly, it's been going on for quite some time. A permit was not pulled, the appeal was exhausted. And at what point does the city not go in and take it down? Or we have tried to require them to take down, but it just seems that if we expect every other person in the city to be law-abiding and to be in compliance with both zoning, building, and health codes, allowing this to continue while we are accruing fines, at what point has the city exhausted its effort and just goes in and says, you're not going to do it, we're going to do it, and we're going to lien the property and proceed accordingly?
Well, I do want to correct one kind of I don't think it's a miscommunication. There was actually a building permit pulled. The property owner came in and appropriately applied for a permit to build the greenhouse. Unfortunately, what he put on the ground was not what he applied for. It was in the wrong place, slightly too high. So while I understand that there's a concern about it, and that's why we are pursuing it the way we're pursuing it, he's allowed to have that greenhouse on his property. It just has to be shifted a little bit further away from the property line and needs to be slightly lower. So his remedy in this situation would be to pull an appropriate building permit, pay the fines that have been accruing on the property, and then move it. It won't be taking down the structure. The structure will remain on the property. It will just lower the top of the greenhouse. It's a modular structure. It's according to the building inspectors who've inspected it and the former building commissioner who's worked on this process. It's something that can be done. You can lower it without removing it. That kind of moves us to a larger question about the policy of development services as to how to ensure compliance with building and health and zoning codes. And our policy has been, for issues of public health and safety, we pursue those in housing court because there's a danger to the public. For issues of that tend more to the aesthetic issues like an encroachment on zoning that doesn't affect the safety of the public, we ensure compliance through fining. And in a situation like this, while it does appear as though it takes time, going to court on these situations, especially if what we were going to be requesting was the removal of a structure, would be a long, drawn-out process as well. And it has been our experience that fines ensure compliance in actually a more timely manner than a court proceeding. In part because judges are hesitant to order the removal of structures, though they will, and in part because when people go to court, they have appeal remedies that they often vigorously pursue. Whereas with a fine, you have a certain time frame within which you are allowed to appeal the fine, and after that, we're allowed to put it on lien, and then and the lien eventually goes on the taxes. It is very rare that we get circumstances where the liens take such a long period of time and accumulate so that that somebody just ignores them. So we found that it's more effective to do by fining rather than by taking them to court in issues where it's not a public safety matter.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion, Council Kennedy.
Just to clarify, so this guy, what are we calling this, a greenhouse, or is it a storage garage?
It is a greenhouse, yes.
Is that what it's utilized for?
Well, I think there were some questions at the time when it was constructed as to whether it was being utilized for kind of the growth of plants or being used as a garage. Either way, it falls under the same issues in zoning as being an accessory structure. So the issues for our purposes weren't.
Doesn't matter.
For our purposes, it doesn't matter what it was being used for at that point.
So they pulled a permit when they built it.
The building permit, yes.
And then it's too close, and it's too high, and it's too close to the property line.
Correct.
And so in order to remedy that, they need a building permit.
Well, I mean, there's a question as to what, because the building permit, the way we found out about it is the building inspector went out to do a site visit, and it was clear that it wasn't built in compliance with the, so they failed their building permit inspections. The building permit is still open. Under the Permit Extension Act, they might actually not have to pull a building permit, but they're not going to get an inspection until they pay their fines. So, but we've told them they're going to have to come back and to get another permit, yes.
Okay, so it isn't like something that they can just do. They're going to need a permit. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then in the meantime, we have these funds, and they can't get the permit until they pay the fines.
Correct.
And they've been in touch with you about doing that?
We have been in touch with their attorney, who's contacted us. I believe they contacted the law department. They also contacted development services.
Did we initiate that?
No.
They did.
It was in response to the original motion from Councilor Rourke. I believe they saw it on the council agenda, so that did spur some.
So at some point down the road, as this goes on, you'll probably have an update for us?
Absolutely, we'll have an update when there's any movement either because we've decided to move it to the taxes, because the time frame is appropriate to move it to the taxes, or because they've responded in some more meaningful fashion than a phone call from an attorney, we will update the council.
Okay, but for people that live out there that don't like the structure, they should never expect that it's gonna come down, right? Is that what you're saying? You're kind of saying that it doesn't have to come down, it just needs to be a little bit lower and kind of moved over a little bit.
Correct.
Is that the type of structure you'd just be able to move over like that?
Well, it's my understanding, and I'm not a building inspector, so take this for what it's worth. But my understanding from the inspectors and the commissioner is that it was built in a modular fashion. So there's sections can be moved. So there's a section that, in theory, could be removed from the front, moved to the back, and replace the doors on the now open section.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Further discussion. Motion to accept communications and place on file by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Being past the hour of 7 p.m., we will go to the general public hearing section of the agenda. Under 3.1, the first is an ordinance amending the zoning, extending SMU zone, including 1422.1 and 1434.1 Gorham Street. Entertain a motion to waive the full reading by Council Martin, seconded by Council Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Second reading by title. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the City of Lowell in City Council is an ordinance. An ordinance amending the code of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts with respect to Chapter 290 thereof entitled Zoning by extending existing suburban mixed-use district, SMU zoning district, to include the entirety of 1422.1 Gorham Street and 1434.1 Gorham Street in Lowell, which is presently zoned traditional neighborhood two-family. Begin by opening this portion of the hearing to those wishing to speak in favor. Wishing to speak in favor, please state your name and address.
Mayor Elliott, members of the City Council, Manager Murphy, James Flood, 549 Roger Street, representing Lexington Development Group LLC, who is the prospective purchaser of this property, along with 1400 Motors LLC, the owner of the property, for the sole purpose of the zone change. And with me tonight is Andy Costello from 1400, if anyone has any questions. The parties have entered into a purchase and sale agreement, and one of the conditions was this requested zone change. I'm sure you're all familiar with the site. It's the site of the former 1400 Motors Cadillac and Oldsmobile dealership that was very active for many years that I can remember, but it's been closed for many years and it's run down. The site consists of 4 parcels: 1400 Gorham Street, 1422 Gorham Street, 1422.1, and 1434.1. I delivered to you in the package a couple of plans. One was a plan that outlined the zoning, what was SMU and what was TTF. And the TTF zone are the ones that's 1422.1 and 1434. The other was a concept plan only as to what could be proposed on that site. What they are proposing, and the final plans haven't been done, is to develop 23 condex units in 1 single unit. It'll be a condominium development. The roads will be private. There won't be any additional costs to the city. If this is allowed, of course, the plan would have to be submitted to the planning board for site plan review and also a neighborhood character special permit. And the planning board really looks at these projects, and I'm sure they'll work and they'll listen to the neighbors as this proceeds. The site abuts the River's Edge development, which is somewhat similar to this proposed development. At the present time, there are 29 duplex homes built on that development, with a plan for another 27. So under Article 12 of the zoning ordinance, our proposed development is allowed in an SMU zone, but in the TTF, it's further restricted. What we want to do is come up with a uniform plan so the whole development will go together. There is no other access to those back lots except through the SMU site. So it all should be developed as one. They've hired Hancock Associates as the engineer, and also Gavin and Sullivan, a local architectural firm, to do the plans. We did appear before the planning board on the 24th, and the planning board voted 5-0 to recommend this zone change. It is our opinion that this is going to clean up the area. There is also a lot of environmental cleanup that has to be done. We've met with Brian Chapman of Mill City Environmental to handle that issue. And there's a lot of money to be spent to get this project going. But Lexington Developers is willing to do it, and hopefully you'll approve this zone change so we can proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flood. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Mayor, City Councilors, Mr. Manager. My name is Dennis Connors. I live at 38 Westview Road here in Lowell. I'm here tonight representing the Residents First Development Corporation. We are developing the River's Edge subdivision, a portion of which is located directly behind the 1400 Motors site. It is our opinion that a residential development of that site would enhance the character of the neighborhood that we are trying to develop at River's Edge. We ask you support the issue that's before you tonight, and we look forward to working with the developer in solving any mutual issues we may have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Connors. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor. Seeing none, that portion of the hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition, seeing none, that portion of the hearing is closed. There's also a communication that we received that's included as part of the agenda in 5.2 regarding this zoning change. Any questions on that communication? Councilor Mercia?
No, Mr. Mayor, I don't have any questions on that communication, but it was a report and recommendation from the planning board, and they did hold a public hearing on this issue. No individual spoke in favor or in opposition, and the board supported their efforts to redevelop this site and make the development consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. The motion was made to approve the request the zoning petition, and the board voted unanimously 5-0 in support of this motion. I would just move approval.
Thank you, Councilor.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Milanazzo. Councilor Samaras, question? Second? Okay. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support the recommendation of the planning board and vote for the zoning change. But I do have a question or two if I could ask Mr. Flood.
Mr. Flood?
I mean, primarily, I look at the concept plan and it just seems very dense and a lot more dense than the Residents First project behind. So my question was, what does the SMU get you that the TTF doesn't allow for?
The TTF, in the TTF zone, we could have 2 units on each lot. So there could only be 4 units on that TTF zone. So that's the problem. But I mean, we wanted to do it all together as to one plan. So I mean, this is just conceptual. I'm sure the planning board will look at it closely, conform to zoning, and we try to leave as much green space as we can.
Right. I mean, to me, it's not so much the green space; it's the, the automobiles. So in that neighborhood, for example, you drive down Manchester Street, and it's very tight with cars. There's a garage, and then there's a car in front of the garage, and oftentimes there's a car on the street. So, I mean, there's no visitor parking lot here. It just seems like, I understand you need to maximize and want to get as many units as you can, but I think it might be a more attractive development if there was some consideration given to the movement and placement of automobiles. I know that the planning board will take a look at it, and that's why I'm going to support the change. But, that's my impression looking at the concept plan, is that it just may be a bit too dense for that site.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion, Council Leahy.
I just have to agree with Council Martin. That was my first concern. I definitely think that the project needs to move ahead to be, develop that site for the neighborhood. It's been far too long. But again, quite frankly, we don't want another Manchester Street either. So I hope that, we can move forward with this. If I can, Mr. Flood, you did say that you thought there might be 22 built?
23 condexes are 2-unit buildings and 1 single family, 47 units shown on the
But
plan.
it still looks like the same amount of, that are on this plan.
Yeah, it's 47. It's
Okay.
47 on the
In
plan.
this plan, it just looks too
But I can-
crowded, so I just hope
No, I can
that
tell
when it
you
goes to
that
the planning board, they give them a little bit more room. I mean,
the planning board is now spending a lot of time looking at it, looking at neighborhood character, and really, they're very critical of plans, and I'm sure that they'll have some comments on it. We'll work with the planning board.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion? Further questions? Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras. Yes. Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
9 yeas, zoning amendment passes. Next item, under utility public hearings. There are 4 public hearings for utility poles. Entertain a motion to take all 4 at the same time and hold a public hearing at the same time by Council Mercia, seconded by Council Milonazo. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 4-4.1, National Grid Verizon New England, pole location at 246 Charting Park Road. 4.2, National Grid requests pole location at 294 Charting Park Road. 4.3, National Grid Verizon New England requests pole location at 39 Schaefer Street. Item 4.4, again, National Grid Verizon New England, pole location at 213 White Street. Now begin the, I will now open up the public hearing to those wishing to speak in favor.
Good evening, my name is Dave Aguirre, and I'm representing National Grid. National Grid is asking the City of Lowell for permission to install all these poles. These poles are all in support of the original pole that was there. Pole 24, Trotting Park Road, 24-84, that's going to support that pole. The pole on Schaefer Street, the pole across the pole 3, pole 3-1 is to support pole 3. These are all on bad corners, and they're all leaning in towards the public homes, so we want to support them. The ones on Trotting Park Road, we're going to be taking out tree guys, so that's going to help too.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor, seeing none, that portion of the hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone in opposition? In opposition, seeing none, that portion of the hearing is closed. What is the wish of the body?
If I could,
Councilman
Mr. Mayor, before we send it to the, the engineering department or the...
Refer to the wire inspector.
I'll put that in the form of motion to refer to the wire inspector, but I do have a question for the representative from National
Motion
Grid.
by Council Milonazo to refer to the wire inspector, seconded by Council Mercia. Council Milonazo.
My question, sir, did I hear you say that these poles are going to be double poles?
No, they're going to support an existing pole that's leaning, and a couple of them on Trotting Park Road have tree guys across the street that's that's supporting that pole.
But they
No, it's
won't
not gonna be a
result in double
pole.
poles?
No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you, Council. Further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Mayor,
Council Kennedy?
I think we have representatives here that can speak about the double polls. Should we do that now, or do you want to do that afterwards, or?
Yeah, why don't we close the public hearing? And then we can proceed with that aspect of it. We don't need a roll call. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Councilor Kennedy.
The double polls, maybe we can get an update on that, or how we're doing with that?
Is there a motion on that?
It's on the manager's information.
Yeah, we have a communication under the city manager's portion of the government, an informational double polls update. Could you give us an update on that, Mr. Egg? Oh.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Kathy Moore. I'm National Grid's Community and Customer Manager, and I cover the City of Lowell.
And I'm Stephanie Lee. I am Verizon's Government Affairs Manager.
Thank you for joining us. We're eager to hear the update.
You're welcome. So I'll get started. We came in December and said that we'd come back with an update on where things stood. We did. When we came in December, we had a total of 120 poles in the city. We have 111 now. We've actually removed 24, but some double poles have been installed as a result of construction, so it's not a clear deduction for the amount that we've reduced. So we are staying on top of it. We're also implementing some changes. We know we discussed at the last meeting some concerns about the accuracy of the information in the database that we use. We've since completed training for the clerical staff that enters the information. So we're confident going forward we'll capture the right amount of the right detail in the information. The other thing that we're doing is we're looking to survey the city, each pole within the city, so that we capture incorrect existing information and update that. And we don't have a specific plan in place for that yet. We're discussing it, and we're hoping to have that completed by the end of third quarter.
Thank you very much. Anything from Verizon?
Hello. So at Verizon, we also have given some attention to this as well, working with National Grid. There have been some priority ones that Henry have sent our way that we really worked to make sure we moved along, but we're trying to continue to work through the backlog so that we can get ahead of, as you know, there's always a rotation where some are being added. So we're trying to remove a little bit more quickly. Now that the weather's getting a little bit better, it'll be a little bit easier. It was a little difficult with some of the snow, but our line managers are aware that we were coming here today. They know that we're going to be asking for them to do more and take advantage of the construction season.
And just one poll that came up last time that was of great concern was on Stromquist, because that had never been recorded in the database. We did finally get that removed, so that's been resolved.
Discussion, further questions? Council Kennedy, Council Leahy, Council Mercier.
I'd just like to thank you for the report. I appreciate you coming back. And I just would like to ask if you'd come back in the fall, and probably we'd be down to double digits by then. Because it seems like whenever you come, it's the news gets a little bit better. And this has been an issue that's been frustrating for the city council for a long, long time. And it's probably frustrating for a lot of other communities as well. But we do seem to be making good progress on this, and so if you would agree to come back in the fall, that would be just so that we can
Certainly,
stay on top of it.
Sure.
Thanks.
Council Leahy, then Council Mercier.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for being here. I just am really frustrated, and I think we can do a better job, so I appreciate you coming back. I don't see some of them on here that I know of, but like, do you know if you took care of Fruit Street? I mean, we had double poles over there for months. Douglas Road, there was a snapped pole sitting right across from maybe County Drive. So if we have a car accident or something, a snapped pole, why would that sit there for months?
I can speak to that. Emergency work like that is actually a little more likely to slip through the cracks, only because it's typically done at night, off hours, and it's emergency work. So part of the process gap that we have is making sure paperwork gets back to the office so that the clerks can record it. And that's a challenge for us when we do night emergency work like that. But we do recognize that it's a challenge, and it's one of the gaps that we're going to try to address.
Okay.
And when we do the survey, we will
capture
all of that. However, if anything does come in that you're recognizing in your neighborhoods, if you can feed it to Henry and get it to us, we'll add it to our database. We'll go out, inspect it, add it to the database, and make sure we get attention on it.
Okay.
And the survey, just, I don't want to make it seem like it's a National Grid effort only. It's a joint venture.
No, I
between
understand,
Verizon
and I keep an eye on it, and I can see that, maybe someone's wires are off, someone's wires are still on, and
Yeah.
we're waiting for either team. But it just seems like when you were here maybe a year ago or so, there was really going to be a big effort to push forward. So I don't really know what a big effort means, because it seems like there's so many people out of work. Something could be done, either subbing it out or overtime or dedicating a special crew. But, I mean, I would like to see the numbers, I'll be reasonable. I would like to see them down into the 50s, not the hundreds all the time. So I understand, I go through a lot of communities, but I really honestly don't see as many of these double poles in other communities as I do in Lowell. So I'd really would like to see a stronger effort put on this. So I appreciate you coming back. But I really think we could do a little bit better of an effort to get these up and out. So, thank you.
Welcome.
Council Mercia?
Thank you very much. Kathy and Stephanie, thank you. I'm grateful as well for your appearance here this evening. Thank you for Stormcourt Street. I was very concerned about that. Let's not forget Windsor Street now, Windsor.
We replaced the pole on Windsor, so now we have to notify the other companies to transfer so we can get the old pole out, but we did replace, yeah.
Okay, great. And you did come in December. I asked if you would come again in a few months. It's May, 5 months later you came. 5 months from now is October, so as Councilor Kennedy said, we'll be looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much. You kept your word. That's very, very important. Thank you. I will pay my Verizon and my National Grid bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your business.
Thank you, Councilor. You didn't say Comcast, though.
Well, they're not here, are they? If they came, I would pay my bill, but
We need them to move,
Yeah,
too.
they're a partner in this with
yeah,
us.
they better be here too. Thank you.
Further discussion on double poles? We'll re-accept the report as a report of progress and place on file. So thank you for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. 5.2. Next item is 5.2. It's a communication, it's a report and recommendation from the Planning Board, proposed zoning amendment to the Lowell zoning code to extend SMU's suburban mixed-use zoning district to include properties located at 1422.1 and 1434.1 Gorham Street. Motion to accept and place on file by Council Belanger, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. In the opposed, motion carries. The report is accepted and placed on file. Moving on to 5.3, it's a communication accepting the resignation of Gerald Nutter from the Election Commission. Motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. In the opposed, motion carries. Next item is a communication from the city manager requesting out-of-state travel for one person from Public Works. Mr. Snow requests approval to send Lisa DeMayo, city engineer, to the New England Water Environment Association spring meeting in Rockport, Maine. Discussion? Move approval by Council Kennedy, second by Council Belanger. Roll call.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Martin.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
That's 5 yeas.
5 yeas, motion carries. Next item under 6.1, it's a vote authorizing manager to execute an MOU for Local 2532. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Rourke, second by Councilor Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. Second reading by title. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, in City Council vote authorizing the City Council to ratify and approve the execution by the City Manager of the Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Lowell and Local 2532, AFSCME, Council 93, covering the period July 1st through 2012 through June 30th, 2015. What is the wish of the body?
Move approval.
Second.
Move approval by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Martin. Discussion?
Yes.
Roll call.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
No.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
That's 8 yeas.
8 yeas, motion carries. Excuse me. Next item, 6.2 is a vote. Authorize the manager execute a temporary license agreement at 221.4 Jackson Street. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. That motion carries. Next item, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, in City Council is a vote authorizing the city manager enter into a temporary license agreement with Coviello Electric and General Contracting Company, Inc., with principal office at 25 Garfield Avenue, Woburn, Massachusetts, for the use of the City of Lowell property, to wit, 221.4 Jackson Street, for the purpose of storing materials and project staging as part of contracted work for the City of Lowell. Move approval by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Martin. Discussion? Roll call.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, motion carries. Next item, orders from the city manager. It's an order of taking and acceptance of Melrose Ave and Shirley Ave. This item, motion to refer to a public hearing on May 27th by Councilor Leahy, second by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. We'll have a hearing on the 27th. Next item under 8.1, ordinance from the city manager. Ordinance amend zoning Article 9 overlay district, specifically Section 9.1 floodplain overlay district. Motion to refer this to the planning board for report and recommendation by Council Belanger, seconded by Council Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. And we will also refer this to a public hearing on May 27th, 2014 at 7 p.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Martin?
On that last referral to the public hearing on the floodplain amendment, for the public hearing or in the packet prior to that, if we could get the maps that are proposed to be changed, and maybe, I mean, we have pretty good GIS stuff now that maybe we could see how many properties are affected. I do think it's a significant number of properties, and I don't think we have a whole lot of choice in this matter. I think if we don't adopt the amendment, then the whole city is thrown out of the flood insurance program. So there's somewhat of a gun to our head, I think, on this amendment, but it would be good to know which properties and how many are going to be affected by this.
No, I think that's a good motion, good point, and I did file two motions. One on the new floodplain map, as well as the new insurance rates that will benefit to some degree some people live in the floodplain. But Mr. Slagle's here and can give an explanation as to this is a good approach to incorporate this into the zoning code, correct?
Sure. This is being required by FEMA, as the councilor had mentioned, in order for us to maintain our national participation in the National Flood Insurance Program. They did provide us, as part of the packet, with the actual map, the physical maps, and a GIS, an electronic format, so we can put it right into GIS. And before the public hearing, I can absolutely have the data that the council is looking for regarding the number of properties that are affected, both positively and negatively. I actually think there's not many, but there are some properties that are coming out of the floodplain that had been in it previously, but I can have all that data for the council before the public hearing.
All set, Counsel? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda, subcommittee reports. We have a zoning subcommittee on May 6, 2014. Chairman Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The zoning subcommittee met earlier this evening at 5:30. In attendance were members of the subcommittee, myself, Councilor Kennedy, and Councilor Belanger, along with Councilor Mercier and Councilor Samaras. We also had in attendance Director of Development Services, Eric Slagle. We convened the subcommittee again to talk about the proposed rezoning of a portion of Rogers Street from 550 Douglas Road up to 458 Wentworth Avenue. That's actually how the meeting was posted. We had a very good discussion about compromise and a couple of discussions around shrinking the zone area that had been discussed in the past. And this is something, as we all know, that's been going on for quite some time. On a motion by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Kennedy, we decided to continue the subcommittee and get the two compromise proposals out to the stakeholders so that they could weigh in at a subsequent meeting to be held within the next 30 days. We were talking about shrinking the extension of the TMU zone, the traditional mixed-use zone, from Shed Park down to Parkview Avenue, on the northerly side of Rogers Street, and keeping the RR zone from Douglas Road up to Parkview, and then on the southerly side from Phoenix Avenue up to the nursing home. That was one potential compromise. And then Councilor Kennedy talked about looking at the existing regional retail and making sure that drive-through required a special permit, which it turns out they do, and to whether or not we could actually limit the size of a new building or a building renovation in an RR zone to a 10,000 square foot building. So we got some information from the Director of Development Services, Mr. Slagle, who indicated that does require a planning board to weigh in on that. So based upon the discussion, based upon the back and forth, and we did hear from probably 14 or 15 stakeholders who came to the meeting, and it was decided that, as I noted, to recess our subcommittee and to have another subcommittee meeting in 30 days to really kind of drill down on these ideas of compromise. So I think some of us were ready to vote, but I think it's probably a good idea to reach out to the stakeholders again and have one more meeting before we make a recommendation to the council. And that's my report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion? Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Next item, item number 10, 10.1, they're claims. We have two for property damage. Motion to refer to the Law Department for report and recommendation.
So moved.
By Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Next item, under petitions, miscellaneous. We have Shirley Blanchard and Donald Sterling request permission to address City Council regarding license violations at 705 Dutton Street.
Donald Sterling, 8 Wamasett Court.
Shirley Blanchard, 8 Wamasett Court. Want to start where I am?
How you doing? We're here to seek help from the council tonight on the ongoing license violations being committed at 705 Dutton Street. And I believe there may be violations being committed at his other licensed business for the Class 2 and 3 licenses at 651 as well. We're just here to ask the council for their help in resolving some of the ongoing issues we've had for probably the last 18 years. We've got some material we'd like to pass out to the councilors.
Would anybody like copies of the licenses to read while we're talking about it?
Yeah, we'll be able to pass out.
Well, want to distribute, if you have copies, to the members of the council.
So we have both licenses, the one licensed at 705 and the one for 651. Now, 651 is a Class 3, which has to do with motor vehicles. And my question to the License Commission that we attended, we went to 2 License Commission meetings, is why is there cars being towed in at 705 on a 24-hour basis when there is no Class 3 held at 705? And of course, the answer was that's a police issue. So, yeah. I mean, we have multiple issues. We have the dumpster issues. We have the towing 24-hour issue. We have the scale issue. The loader, the blocking of my driveway, which clearly listed on the license to do not block the abutter's driveway, which was one of the questions I had asked Mr. Kazanjian when he applied for his license. And nothing was ever posted. I don't own the fence, he owns the fence. And I'm constantly going out to ask people to move and getting harassed by them because I have to ask them to do not block my driveway. The business next door is in violation of his license, and I get harassed by the people that I'm asking to move, which I don't see why I should have to tell them to move when it should be posted. And like I said, the 24-hour thing is just, it's affecting our health and well-being. We don't get any sleep. It affects our quality of life. When they're bringing them in and picking them up, with customers coming in 24 hours a day, fighting with the driver about getting their car released. And I have to listen to that, the driver and the customers fighting out in the street in front of my house, which puts me at risk. If somebody freaks out someday and pulls out a gun, who knows where bullets are gonna fly. Go ahead. I'm having an anxiety attack.
Yeah, Mr. Kazanjian has a license for dealing in junk at 705 Dutton Street. And what he's doing here has nothing to do with dealing in junk. It's more on the lines of handling solid waste. He has a license to deal in barter and the buying and selling and trading of scrap metals. What's going on here is no barter, buying, selling, or trading. It's more rather you charge a fee. In turn, you collect the fee, and in turn, you are charged a fee as well to dispose of this material. A lot of it's building materials, things like that. Again, we feel that we were violated by Mr. Kazanjian. He's yet to hold a public hearing on what he intended to do with this property. In 2010, I think it was, Walter Bayless went down there, made him clean it up. He was in violation of the license, had junk cars all over the place, junk cars on a residential lot, junk cars across the street. In order to run his business, he's disrupting the flow of the traffic on Dutton Street with the loader, parading around. I've been intimidated by him many times. The loader isn't something that belongs in the street when the license states clearly that all activity to be conducted within the fenced-in area. Now, we've also heard that, yes, because that land is near the railroad, he has a right to use it. Well, we also have a right to come into a public hearing and have our city officials vote on what he can do on that land. And disrupting our quality of life shouldn't be one of them. There are rules and regulations in place, and he doesn't seem to be following any of them. So we'd like the council to make a motion to correct these problems. There are license violations taking place. They've already been reviewed by the police and by the building commissioner.
I've been taking photos since 1997. I have hundreds of them. I mean, I brought a few. I have pictures of dumpsters full of building material, wood, insulation, that are stored overnight over the weekend, less than 50 feet away from my house. To me, it's a health hazard. And I call the health department and the building department, and I get, the zoning allows it. Like, well, I'm not a street lamp on the street. I'm a human being, and I think I have some rights. I've been in that house since 1968. My father has been on that street since 1950. I don't know if any of you older gentlemen remember Mini Stables. That's my father. And I have pictures from 1950 to the present of that whole neighborhood. And that's it. And
When we call the police, there seems to be a lot of confusion on who enforces the rules and regulations of the licenses that he holds. You know, we get sent to the License Commission. They tell us, well, if there's a problem with the towing, you need to call the police. We call the police, and they tell us to call the License Commission, so it's a lot of back and forth here.
they're getting mad at us because they're like, we don't know why the License Commission is referring you to us.
And I think a lot of the confusion is where he has a Class 2 and 3 license down the street. They think that junk is associated with that Class 2 and 3. The Class 2 and 3 is for dealing in the dismantling of automobiles and buying and selling automobiles. He doesn't have any license for any of that at 705, yet he's bringing autos in, weighing them on a scale, going down the street, unloading, coming back up.
Weighing empty, so it's out during the day, it's the trucks
If
back
he-
and forth in
if-
front of my house.
If he feels the need that he just doesn't have the room to get the ramp truck in, then he just goes and gets the loader and he picks up the dumpster or whatever, and you're talking, 25 feet from her window. She doesn't need a piece of metal coming through the window while we're watching TV, whacking us in the head, because he has no consideration for others. We're not talking about someone who's like strapped for space on the street. Mr. Kazanjian owns most of the street. I mean, as a developer, you think he'd be able to figure out, well, we got residents here, we shouldn't be doing that here. We can do that a couple blocks up or a couple doors up, rather than putting us at risk continually. And when we approach him with these problems, we're told, well, this is an industrial zone.
But Wamasett Court that I own, it's not a city street, it's owned by the residents. That's residential, and I've complained about him running his heavy machinery and equipment and tow trucks and ramp trucks through. All they did was destroy it. That little road was not built for heavy equipment. And when I catch one of the drivers, a tow truck, a ramp truck, I have pictures of them over the years. I've been told, they were told to stay out of there. If they do it again, they're fired. That's what I was told by Mr. Kazanjian's manager.
But yet it keeps going on over and over and
Two weeks ago
over.
on a Wednesday, the ramp truck came flying through the court again. It's like, I've had pictures over the years. It's like, when is this gonna stop? I'm paying taxes on a piece of property that's just destroyed. Because of the encroachment, when he moved on the street, encroached onto my mother's property.
I think when you're getting at the encroachment, she's meaning when Mr. Kazanjian violated his license at 651 by coming out and taking a residential lot on Wamasett Court and storing automobiles there. And Walter Bayless corrected that situation around 2010, 2011, as well as the problem across the street. But still, yet, there has been no public hearing on what his intentions are on that property. Anything he does across the street from us affects our quality of life, the quality of anyone in the city's life, anyone traveling on Dutton Street.
Okay. City councils have questions.
Yep.
Okay. Council Mercier, then
Thank you,
Council
Mr.
Belanger.
Mayor. Through you to the people, and we have a right to question people that come before the podium and before this council. And it seems to me that you're concerned about license violations and I did a little investigating too. When I saw this, I tried to figure out what was happening here and what was the issue. And I can appreciate the fact that you have a concern. And I checked to see if any of your concerns were valid as far as no license. And this is, if it's a license violation, the matter should go before the License Commission, not before the City Council. But you claim that you were there.
Yeah.
All right, so evidently they must have looked this up and saw that there were no I'll look at you, well, that's what you say, and I will look at it. But you're talking about a violation of not having the proper license, and I did check, and there is a license for scrap metal, for junk metal, for scrap metal. He has the proper licenses, so I don't know Right, he has the licenses that you're claiming he doesn't. He's in violation of this. So be that as it may, and so maybe when you went before the License Commission, they knew and checked and found that he did have licenses. Now, you lived at this property since 1968, you said? Did you have any problems before? Because I never heard that you had problems in the past. It seems like it's recently that you
The
have
other neighbors did have problems. I think in your packet, you'll find a letter enclosed where he was encroaching on the Wamasett Court area, which was a violation of that license at 651.
At any time, did you offer to sell your property to the abutter, Mr. Kazanjian?
No.
She said yes, you said no. What is it, yes or
He
no?
approached me. When I first took the house when my mother died in 1996, Alan was already on the street. And he approached me several times, do you want to sell, do you want to sell? And I kept telling him no, I didn't want to sell.
But did you give a figure of what you wanted for your property?
As time went by.
As time went
dealing
by.
with the aggravation, he approached us again, and I finally agreed and said, yes, all right, I'll sell it to you.
Yes, for 4 times more what the value was worth?
I went by what the value was on my tax bill at the time, and he said that he would give me 10 grand more than it was worth. So with 2 of those added up, that's what we agreed on.
But
We shook hands.
But none of this materialized, and that's when all your complaints seem to have started.
No, they started in 97 with calling the police and.
Well, that's not what I'm understanding, but it seems like you made an offer of,
We agreed on the price, we shook hands, he told me, give me till February when I get my 1.4 million from Drake. I waited, I called the office, oh, we don't want it now, times are tough.
because the plans fell apart. Is this when all the complaints started?
No, the complaints had started a long time ago. If you look in there, you'll see a letter that's signed by Shirley's mother.
No, they don't have that.
Well, then you gotta give it to them.
But I mean, I've given you all the letters that we've sent in the past, recent police reports.
That letter, it's right here on the bottom.
And you're taking pictures of people coming and going to do business at this establishment?
I'm taking pictures of what I think is a license violation. I'm taking pictures of full dumpsters that have wood in them. What's that got to do with scrap? You said the use of the dumpsters are to haul scrap, not building material, not insulation, not trash, not garbage. I see people throwing their furniture in. He leases them out to people that are doing demolition on a house. And then when they're picked up, they're brought and parked across the street from my house.
One last thing that I want to say. Captain Taylor, who is now the superintendent of police, there was a complaint filed with Captain Taylor, who is now the superintendent, and he did go over and he did an investigation, and he had a full team of people go over and take a look at that property for the violations that you claim are taking place at the time, which was about 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, perhaps between 4.5 to 4 years ago. And it came back that there were no violations there. I wanted you to know that because I did check with the police department, and that's what I found to be true.
In
So,
the time that he was there.
I mean, I'm not going to dispute the police if they went and investigated under the watchful tutelage of not this city manager, but former city manager Bernie Lynch, that probably didn't have a good rapport with the person we're speaking about, and yet the police did a neutral investigation and it come back that there were no violations. Did you want us to issue violations for something that never was taking place? I'm just giving another side of the story because I did check this out quite extensively myself. But what did you want us to do? What do you want us to do?
We just want them to abide by the rules and regulations.
Well, I think that they are, but I'll refer your request
Well,
to
the
the city.
storing of motor vehicles is a violation of the junk license. See, the police are very confused on the 2 licenses. The Class 2 and Class 3 license are at 651 Dutton Street. At 705 Dutton Street, he only has a junk license. And
So
this
the
is
police
what the-
don't know the law, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the police are kind of confused on the licenses.
Don't know the law, but you do, right?
Difference between issuing the licenses, that's
Okay,
what we get.
we have some more questions. Council Belanger, then Council Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I saw this on the agenda, I'm very confused as to why this, as Council Murphy said, why is this here? We have 2 licenses brought in by the abutter, and I'm not trying to take anybody's right away to complain. If they have issues, then we want to know about them, by all means. But these licenses are granted by the License Commission. They are the granting authority. They enforce these, not the Lowell Police. I see about 3 or 4 police reports. You can call the police every day. They do not enforce businesses in the sense if there's illegal activity going on, then yes. But a police officer can't differentiate if there's scrap wood in the dumpster or scrap metal. That's not their job. Okay, they need to be on the street protecting residents. They can't. They see junk cars around them, tow trucks. He's got a junk dealer's license. That sounds spot on to me. I'm not on the License Commission, but I don't know. It's been inspected, according to Councilor Mercia, by the chief. I don't think it belongs here, Mr. Mayor. I'm seeing a direct correlation from the timing of a real estate transaction that was supposed to take place and did not. And from what I see, the complaints really ramped up from that point on. So I see potentially there could be a grudge here. I know it's difficult, a residential, industrial abutting each other. It's not always easy, but I think it goes a lot further than that here. So I'd like to make a motion to refer it to the city manager, get it to the License Commission where this belongs. I don't believe it belongs here. Thank you very much.
Second the motion.
Motion by Council Belanger, second by Council Kennedy to
I'd
refer
like to
this
speak on
item
the
to the
motion.
city manager. Council Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if it belongs here either, but it seems that, I think probably at the root of this is maybe it's, you have a residential property owner and an industrial property owner, and they're having difficulty getting along. Just because those things don't always work together all that well. But I think this, if these people have been to the License Commission and called the police department and everything else, it seems to me that there's probably a lot of confusion about what's allowed and what's not allowed there, and that maybe all this requires is an explanation and speaking to both parties, and maybe we can get to the bottom of it. But I think if these people, and Mr. Kazanjian is here as well, but I mean, these people have come down here, they've waited, almost 2 hours now to speak on this. And so this is an important issue for them, obviously, and it's an important issue for Mr. Kazanjian, obviously. And so it seems to me that maybe this is a matter for the city manager, that maybe the city manager could just determine whether or not everything's being done the way it's supposed to be done, and maybe come up with some kind of a solution. And, this might be a matter where Mr. Marchand's expertise comes into play, and he might be able to referee this one to an amiable solution for everybody.
Thank you, Council. There's another individual registered to speak. Mr. Kazanjian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Councilors, Mr. Manager. Alan Kazanjian, Kazanjian Enterprise. I want to thank you for the opportunity to give me this time to speak in behalf of myself and my company on Dutton Street. We do own a lot of property there, and I know Mr. Sterling and Ms. Blanchett also lives there. It's an industrial zone, and they just happen to have a residence in an industrial zone. And we are, by our right, able to do what we're doing there. They've gone to the building department, the license commission, the police department, and many other departments, whether it's citywide or statewide, and sent different either pictures or complaints, and there's been no wrongdoing in the past few years, or ever, I should say. This all pretty much started about 4 years or so ago when Ms. Blanchett wanted to sell me, and Mr. Sterling wanted to sell me her property for approximately 3 times more than what the property's worth. We reneged on buying the property, and all of a sudden, complaints just came out of nowhere. And like I said, the police department's been going down, and it's a lot of frivolous complaints where the police department could be doing other things, maybe stopping a crime and spending an hour on Dutton Street to a frivolous complaint about a dumpster that's across the street that's allowed to be there. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me that this is ongoing. Yeah, it's a tough situation for Ms. Blanchett and Ms. Sterling where we are in the industrial area, but we're a good neighbor. I work with all my neighbors. I try to work with them. Where I get complaints and it's impossible to talk to them, and I just feel that there's nothing more that I can do. And it seems to me like it's pretty much where, okay, I didn't buy the property, now we're going to get back to you and make times hard for you where we're going to force you to try to buy the house. And, you know, at this point in time, I don't want to do that because of the aggravation I've been going through. It's just been, like I said, an ongoing nightmare for us. I've got myself and my employees walking in and out of the property, and they're taking pictures of it. Myself, I don't mind, they can do that. My employees, you know, they are taken back by it. And also I have customers coming in, and they're taking pictures of my customers coming in there. And my customers are saying to me, what's going on here? Why is he taking my picture? You know, it's just like, you know, with things today, with pictures, with computers and everything else, God only knows what can happen to, or where they can go. I mean, it's just, it's a bit of a harassment, and it's an eerie feeling that, like I said, that these people are taking pictures of, like, my employees and my customers, and God only knows what they're doing with it. But like I said, it's an ongoing thing, and it's got to stop somewhere. He's been to the License Commission, like I said, and they found no wrongdoing just a few months ago. The time when Mr. Bayless, that's not the case. Mr. Bayless did not find any wrongdoing, found out that our property was actually cleaner than their property, and it was a comment that he made. And we do keep a very good, clean operation there. You know, we're not perfect, nobody's perfect, but we do a damn good job of what we do. And I'm proud of what we do there, and like I said, we keep our property up and try to maintain it the best we possibly can. There's people that drop off TVs, refrigerators, and things like that in front of our gate, and we take care of it ourselves. We don't call the city, and we take care of it at our own expense. There's tires that be dropped off, you know, so these are things that we do, and like I said, we do work with all the neighbors. If it's plowing one of the neighbors and taking care of them in the wintertime, we do that. I mean, we're a good neighbor. I'm a good person. We're a good neighbor. I'm not trying to bully these people. We're just here to work together if it's possible. But I think it's impossible for these people because I think that the main reason is just to get after me to purchase this house, which I think is totally wrong. I want to thank everybody for giving this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kazanjian. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. It's referred to the city manager for report and recommendation. Next item, 10.3. Still under petitions. Miscellaneous, Emily Perry requests to address City Council regarding changes to the pet ordinance to include miniature pigs.
Hi, my name's Emily Perry, and I am a hopeful resident of Lowell, and I've been looking to purchase a home in the city. And I'm here tonight to request an amendment to the zoning ordinance to allow miniature pigs to be kept as pets. Let's see, under the current Article 3, Chapter 104-33, all pigs are classified as swine currently, and there's no provision to allow for miniature pigs to be kept as companion animals. The term swine commonly refers to livestock pigs. However, there's miniature breeds have kind of been becoming increasingly popular as family pets and also now as service animals. And with an inclusion of the miniature pigs as a pet, you know, I'd suggest adding some restrictions, which I've outlined in a paper which should be in your packet. I currently have a miniature pig. Her name is Bacon. She's about 20 pounds. She's 1 year old. And when I started kind of looking for houses, and you know, we really wanted to live in Lowell because I love the city. I have a lot of friends and good community here, and so I said, "Oh, okay, great." And I went out and I looked at houses, and I just happened my first time out to come across the house when you find the house, and so I said, "Oh, this is the house," and I put in an offer, and then said, "Oh crap, what about bacon? And so I'm coming here as a potential resident, just trying to do my due diligence and be a good citizen and be in compliant with the current ordinance. I completely understand the desire to not want to change the ordinance in such a way that would allow people to have large livestock pigs. So what I'm proposing is just to amend it to put in a small provision to allow for pigs that are currently in your home as pets. So some zoning restrictions that could go along with adding an amendment could be, it must be a miniature breed that was ensured that it would stay small and could stay a family pet. It must weigh under 50 pounds, as most miniature breeds are currently all bred under 50 pounds or less. Typically between 10 to 30 pounds is the average miniature pig size. Pigs must be kept indoors. I think that kind of, says what it should say. To be kept as a pet, I mean, they're kind of seen as cats and dogs, and, we don't want to be having them kind of housed outside because that's not good for the welfare of the pig, and that's kind of opposing to what, what I'm proposing here. May not own more than 2 pigs. Pigs are companion animals. They're like cats or dogs, or they like to have more than one. They like to have a friend so they don't get lonely when you're not home. But limiting to 2 will allow, responsibility by the owner. And just some quick information about miniature pigs. They grow up until they're about 3 years old with, like dogs, most of their growing being done in the first year. They're hypoallergenic and they don't shed, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to get one when thinking about if I wanted a cat or a dog. And I said, I don't want to deal with cat hair. And, a dog takes a long time to house train, and pigs are litter box trained. So that allows you to keep them in the house and be able to play with them. They're very cheap to feed. They eat a diet of fruit and vegetables and specialized pig food. They require minimal veterinary maintenance outside of a yearly checkup. I did already check, and there is the Nashua vet clinic that services miniature pigs right across the border in Nashua. And it is pretty common for cities to be amending their restrictions. The last 10 years, people have really started, as these pigs have come into prominence, looking at their zoning ordinances and finding that because pigs are classified as swine, they need to be adding little provisions like this to allow people to have them as pets. I currently reside in Arlington, and when speaking with their, Board of Health and their zoning board, they basically said, oh, well, our ordinance says pigs are considered livestock, but since it's living in the house, we don't really consider that being livestock, so it's fine. So every town is kind of different, every city is different, and so this is why I'm standing in front of you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I have pictures if you want to see what Bacon looks like and how small she is, and to kind of give you an idea of the scale, and thank you for letting me ramble on in front of you.
It's okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Discussion? Entertain a motion to, Council Martin?
Yeah,
Kennedy?
we should, my suggestion is we refer to the law department for report and recommendation. I mean, I appreciate the work that's gone into looking at our ordinance, but I think the solicitors should do that too, and come back to the council with some suggestions, and we can decide whether it's an appropriate thing to do or not.
Second.
Motion by Council Martin, second by Council Kennedy. To refer to law department for. Oh, can she meet you off-site just to get some information?
Oh, sure.
The city solicitor. All those in favor of that motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Council Kennedy.
if I would just like to add that Bacon is an excellent name for a pig.
Yeah, it is. I'd like to add that we're vegetarians, so, well, I'm a half vegetarian. I don't eat bacon anymore. I don't eat pork anymore.
Okay.
If I named her Cow, maybe that would have been different.
Okay. We got it. Motion to refer to the law department for report and recommendation on miniature pigs. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Excuse me. Still under petitions. 10.4, Greater Lowell Engineering Association for Enterprise Bank requests underground electric conduit at 18 and 19 Palmer Street. Motion to refer to a public hearing by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Kennedy on May 20th. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Next section of the agenda. Oh, yeah, we're all set. We'll see you.
Okay.
We'll see you on the 20th. Did you add something that you wanted to add?
No, I thought I was to appear and kind of present the plan to the,
May 20th?
okay,
Sorry, we wouldn't have made you sit here all night.
no problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, moving to the section 11, City Council, motion agenda, motion part of the agenda. First motion of the night by Councilor Rourke, request city manager provide update for the council regarding special permit status of 557 Barnum Ave and any future plans for the structure. Second by Councilor Samaras. Councilor Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It basically reads what it is. I'm looking for a complete report on when the owners contacted the city as far as when it was closing. This has to do with the Glendale Nursing Home on 557 Varnum Ave. What are the future plans of the building? Now the building is actually boarded up, and with it being a nursing home and, a partial medical facility, has inspections been in there. What happens to the status of the special permit that allowed that building to be built, and so forth. So it's pretty straightforward, and any information would be beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. Next item, 11.2, motion by Councilor Rourke, request city manager have Lowell Police Department superintendent report on funding and source of funding for UTEC organization. Second by Councilor Samaras. Councilor Rourke.
Thank you once again, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to state my support for Superintendent Taylor's actions of the police department that he took regarding UTEC funding. The incidents that took place put the public in extreme danger, and UTEC's subsequent actions were at best subsequent. The council tonight did receive a statement from the director of UTEC regarding what happened in that instance. And while noticing all of UTEC's achievements, I failed to see an apology for their actions. So that being said, I, as I'm sure my fellow councilors, want to make sure that all public safety partners are on the same page and in sync with the police department. I'm hoping to find out the funding and the resources that Lowell Police gave to UTEC. It also may be beneficial for all Lowell's public safety partners to convene for a meeting to ensure that we all working together and once again on the same page. I know that the ultimate goal is to make sure that working together, Lowell becomes as safe as it could possibly be, and we don't need interruptions like this, to happen and that put people in danger. So, that information I think would be valuable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you. Now, I just want to support Councilor Rourke's motion. I also want to commend Chief Taylor for taking a decisive action to assure that the safety of our city is made a primary responsibility. UTEC does have a role in this city, and they've done it, they've done their work. But the police must be allowed to work with certain individuals and take them off the street. I've seen these actions. I've been part of some of these issues as headmaster of the high school. But I think what's important here is that something is worked out where the chief is allowed to sit down with UTEC and work out what his needs are to assure that this city is safe. And that must be first on our list. And I just want to make sure that that he knows that the council is in support of his actions. I think that's important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Molinazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support the motion and kind of follow up on some of the comments that my colleagues just made. I think we all agree that there are many good things going on at UTEC. I think we also agree that as a council, we support the actions taken by Superintendent Taylor. I think Councilor Samaras said it best that, making sure that public safety is paramount in this community. But there has been a longstanding relationship between the police department and UTEC. And I think that as soon as the superintendent sees fit to sit down with the leadership at UTEC, I think that's something that needs to happen quickly. As we all know, UTEC depends upon funders in order to carry out their programs. And if the funders feel that the relationship between the Lowell Police Department and UTEC is not as strong as it could be, they could run into some issues. Again, that's not our issues per se, but at the end of the day, I think we all would agree that UTEC does do good things in this community. So I think, again, picking up on Councilor Samaras' comments and the fact that this is a good motion, that we should encourage the superintendent and the city manager to meet with UTEC quickly in order to really redevelop that relationship and continue to work together. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
I just want to let you know, obviously, I supported the superintendent's actions, but I'm going to be meeting with UTEC on Monday to discuss this incident and where we go from here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. I just wanted to echo the same thing, that I think this is a good motion. We support the police chief on this, and that, you know, public safety is number one. I did read the letter. You know, supporting somebody is one thing, but taking responsibility is another thing. So I'm glad that, I'm sure that things will work out, but I'm glad that the swift action was taken by the police chief, and we support him 100%.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next motion of the night by Councilor Leahy. Request city manager have proper department meet with the Middlesex County Sheriff's Department in order to organize major cleanup for the city of Lowell. Second by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. If we could try to get a meeting with the Sheriff's Department, try to get maybe some of the main thoroughways cleaned up. I know we brought this motion up in the past, and I'm not sure where it really ended up, but I would like to see us, in speaking with Chris Green, he said that, you know, he'd love to work with us. We could get some of the main roads, Route 110, any of the other sections in particular cleaned up. But that section there has always been a trouble spot. And the terrain's a little tricky, but I think we can do it. I also had a motion on before for Colley Stadium. You know, they'd love to come out there and help us with that. Get it cleaned up, get it painted maybe. As much work in the city as we could use the department for, the Sheriff's Department, would just, you know, be great. So if we could set up some sort of meeting and get on a schedule or agenda or see what we could do with them, that'd be a great thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with this motion wholeheartedly, but when you say as much work as can be done, we must take into consideration the unions and that we're not violating their contracts, and they have to have an input on here too. You don't just come into a city and decide you're going to take over. You need to all sit down, not just the Sheriff's Department, but with the unions as well. So I agree, and I think a compromise can be made. It's called working together and for the good of the city to try to clean it up. So it is a very good motion, but you got to be sensitive to all the people and the players so that they all sit at the table to discuss this. And it has happened in the past. We have sat down in the Sheriff's Department with the union representatives who took it back to the body to try to say that we'd like some of our clients to be partaking in the cleanup of certain sections of the city, and they have done that. It works, but you just can't leave out one partner, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Leahy?
Sure, thank you. And that's a very good point. I'm hoping that, you know, with this year's budget negotiations also, or not negotiations, but this year's budget, and with the leadership of our new manager, you know, we're going to have a difference in philosophy, but I hope that what we can kind of get back to, I guess, is, you know, there's always been a balance between the budget cuts and what we have to sacrifice, but I think over the years, cutting back the departments, and we don't have as much help in each department in DPW and the parks, that things have suffered. So that's going to be a good conversation that we'll have this year with the budget, and we've got to, make sure that if we don't have enough people on staff, we still have the responsibility of getting these parks and Colley Stadium cleaned up, and whether it's through overtime or hiring or asking people to come in like the sheriff's department. But these are things that I feel have been neglected for far too long. Just for an example, I'm at Colley Stadium this month for lacrosse, and people, I can't tell you how many people are coming up and saying, when are we going to do a cleanup? And I realize that the Parks Department is doing what they can. They're obviously understaffed, and they're around at all the parks in the city, but, people are taking notice and they're asking us. So I'm not criticizing, but I'm saying, let's come up with a solution and let's try to work together, like you said, with everybody. But, we have to maintain our parks. Colley Stadium just, it needs a facelift, and I can't remember exactly where it is on the capital plan, but it's an important stadium complex that needs to be cleaned up. The parking lot took a beating this year with the dumpsters and with the plowing, with the snow and the frost heaves, and so that's something we really have to take a look at along with all our parks.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, I think this is an excellent motion as well. I mean, we're going to be facing a pretty tight budget this year, and so any type of resources that we can get that are not going to impact that budget, I think is a good thing. I think that it's to have the focus be on the main roadways coming into the city and Colley Stadium and probably other places where visitors come into the city and look. It's important that they look clean. I think for people who don't live here and who come in just once in a while, that roadway in creates an impression. The visit to Colley Stadium creates an impression, or the visit to Shed Park or any place else that you might go to watch a sporting activity or something else. So I think this is just a great motion, and when the manager's speaking to the Sheriff's Department about getting it going, you may look at, it may occur to you that there are other areas where we could use the Sheriff's Department as well.
Thank you, Counselor. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed. Motion carries. Next motion of the night. Council Leahy requests City Manager have Lowell Police Department and Lowell Fire Department provide a report to the council regarding their annual fundraising efforts. Seconded by Council Martin.
Thank you. Motion almost speaks for itself. I did have a conversation with the police chief and someone from the police fire department, and basically what I'm looking for is just that maybe we get it on the website or we get it out to the public somehow, what annual fundraisers they have and about the timeline when we should be expecting a call. I happened to get a call this past week for the fire department, but I thought that I had just given to them maybe in November or December, so I was a little confused, and they kind of cleared it up that was one fundraising effort that they really aren't associated with, but this one that they're calling around this week, really goes to the Lowell kids. So I was a little confused. And, when you're giving your money out to donations, you like to make sure it's going to a worthy cause. But when you get called twice a year, it's like, didn't I just give to you? So that's all. I just want to make sure that people know who and when to expect these calls, and just to make sure they're legitimate. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed. Motion carries. Last motion of the evening. Motion by Council Mercia, request City Manager have proper department synchronize lights at Gorham and Highland to remain green 60 seconds longer than from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. and remain green for 30 seconds longer at Gorham and Elm Street from 4 to 6.
I know, it's a long one. Thank you. Seconded by...
Seconded by Council Rourke. Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When you're coming when you're on the connector, when you're coming into the city and you're getting off at the Gorham Street exit, and you're going to take a left as if you're heading towards the downtown when you get to the next set of lights at the corner of Highland Street and Gorham, heading into the downtown, that light should be 60 seconds. Not 60 seconds longer, but 60 seconds. It seems like it's like 30 seconds, and next thing you know, there's such a clogged up area right there. It's just a standstill, and the traffic isn't moving. And it seems that when you're coming out from Elm Street, the lights on that side are acting longer. They're longer. So I think it should be 60 seconds going on Gorham Street into the downtown and 30 seconds as you're coming out of the side streets, because we got to get that standstill moving. We got to keep the traffic moving, and that is at the request of people that live in that immediate area. And I noticed that, to make matters worse, a couple of weeks ago, it was just blinking, and that was kind of like tough too. So I don't know what's going on there, but I wanted it in black and white so the traffic engineer and the city engineer would synchronize it or something. Something's not right, but it needs to be longer to get the traffic moving from the connector into the city and out to wherever they have to go. So that's the gist of that motion. Thank you.
It's a good motion. I've been there more often than not,
Yeah.
Counselor.
And I also want to thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager. With you being on board, we got the Connie Square Bridge open. Thank you for your speedy process. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, Counselor Kennedy?
Would want to suggest, but maybe the manager, I mean, this should go to the traffic engineer, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you're going to do, so that's what we would be doing with this.
Motion to refer to traffic engineer by Counselor Kennedy, seconded by Counselor Mercia. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn by Counselor Martin, seconded by Counselor Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We will not tell you the score of the Bruins.
Wasn't that your motion?
Have a good evening. Meeting is adjourned.